The ocean beats pearl white against its high, dark cliffs and spills a green-tinted water on its sallow beaches. To look down from the skies, the tiny fields below are soft, silent, and green in their innocence. From brown bogs and purple, brighter moorlands, streams and lakes shine silver upon the land that long knows how to tolerate suffering. But to many of its native-born, winter, non-shivering inhabitants, it is a shrunken teat on the chest of the cold Atlantic, from which little of life's bare necessities and less of its joys or juices can be squeezed, and whose grey skies and sodden winds force the mind to dream of other realms and to communicate with an almighty Gaelic God for whom this land alone is worthy of his blessings. I am a narrowback, born in America of Irish-born parents whose backs, broad from the old country, toiled to rear the narrower backs of their children in the New World. I left the New World for the old, took my degree in drinking and harlotry in the better pubs of Dublin, and with my ill and random got credentials wandered distant lands, only to return years later to the old sod and live eternally indulging my future and past creative scribbles among the oddly literary elements which thrive here.
When I play on me fiddle in Dooney, folk dance like a wave of the sea. Me cousin is priest of Kilvarna, me brother in Maharawi. I passed me cousin and brother as they read from their books of prayer. I read from me book of songs I bought at the Sligo Fair. And when we come at the end of time to St. Peter sitting in state, he will smile on the three old spirits, but call me first to the gate. For the good that always the merry, saved by an evil chance, and the merry love to sing, and the merry love to dance. And when the folk there spy me, they will all come up to me with, "Here is the fiddler of Dooney," and dance like a wave of the sea.
To more than a few, Ireland remains a glowingly sweet emerald vision. But it was neither glowing nor sweet that dark day 30 years ago, when I was forced to escape from Dublin the night my first play, The Ginger Man, was stopped in its third performance and closed with one having to beat a hasty retreat from the city.
Can I rely on you not to spill a bean or utter a word? Can I? Even though they take the hook to you and other Irish instruments as well, yes?
Yes.
The play was considered shocking by devout Dubliners. An opening night caused a scandal the likes of which have not been seen since by the Gaiety Theatre stage manager.
There was suddenly a burst from the audience of objection. The show went on, but there was hell outside over it, and people got up and walked out. And you see, the book was banned. Everybody had read it anyway, and everyone was expecting this to happen, that there'd be a protest against it. So we actually closed the theatre then down, took the show off.
The presence of this play once again on a Dublin stage signals the utter change this country has undergone in the years since, as we prepare to unleash Sebastian Dangerfield once again on this nearly liberated and perhaps more benign populace.
In my church, it's a mortal sin.
When The Ginger Man was first written, people forget that in those days there was a great deal of censorship everywhere, And I believe there must have been at least 45 publishers who first turned it down over the various places and years. It was the whole atmosphere of Ireland at that time which led to the writing of the book, and especially at the point where all these people who had come to university there were then going off to the rest of the world in their own lives, and it suddenly dawned on me that this particular period was a very curious and strange time in Dublin, and probably my own life as well. We had been a small colony of foreign students in what was, on the surface and in language, apparently not a foreign land, but whose citizens, we soon learned, were deeply alien to us in other ways, relating to the impenetrable intellectual and sexual repression which seemed to have enveloped the majority of the Irish in mind and body. But happily there remained more than a few who were free from this chronic condition, sheltered in the then Protestant sanctum of Dublin's Trinity College.
Join the gridiron. Join the table tennis club. Join the orchestral society.
40 years later, one finds much has changed.
Join the table tennis. Close your eyes. You are feeling very tired. You are feeling a pound come out of your pocket. Join the rifle club. Join the boat club. Join the orchestral society. Join the Socialist Workers Student Society. Join the Classical Society. Join the rifle club. Are you man enough to take this blade?
Unconfronted by such a wide variety of extracurricular options in the post-war years, we were forced to settle for the more mundane and musty activities offered by Trinity's debating societies or the Gramophone Club. Science fiction and karate hadn't yet penetrated the ivy-covered walls.
Swimming club, biggest club in Holland.
In the silence of this ancient university, a bell tolled in this tower to summon one to dine on commons. Cloistered within its stone walls, its grasses flat, green and velvet, Trinity was a veritable jewel in the very midst of this grey city. I lived up there behind those windows where a college servant called Nocta brought a bucket of water he filled each morning with which to make tea and wash my face. This was the glistening wet view from my sitting room window of number 38 and the one most frequently seen. And it was always possible to identify a visitor long before they arrived and to have one's heart palpitate or to be able to run and hide. In those days, the Yanks, as we were called, were mesmerized and bedeviled by this country, where tomorrow can only be a little bit worse than the very worst you are feeling today, and where literature and art and the hope to be part of it throbbed in many a citizen's heart. Old photos now stand as the only record of such intellectual gentlemen having an unrehearsed drink together. Bespectacled and mischievous classmate Gaynor Stephen Christ, the original ginger man himself, next to playwright Brendan Behan, and across the table the friendly visage of Dublin revolutionary Tony McInerney, with whom I still sometimes share pints and memories.
It was a time of national euphoria. Nations go through that.
Yes.
The Americans went through it before the First World War, when everything went right for them. Everybody was making money. Everybody was growing rich. That was national euphoria. We had that after the last war. We survived it. We were safe. Our bellies were full. We were young.
And the point is that the time was so pleasant and so wonderful
Yes,
that people
right.
began to recall it. and the recollection of the time then began to produce the writing.
2 points.
There was for the group a casual carelessness about Dublin life, and with wine, women and song being the priority, no one knew or much cared that a so-called literary period was then hugely in the making.
A gentle.
Comeuppance and instant amusement were all the rage, and you were as good as your last fist thrown or witticism uttered.
Everybody was happy, and there was drink and food, and everything was practically free.
And it looked like it was going to go on forever.
Yes,
this was the
yes,
point.
yes.
Yeah.
We were immortal.
That's
We were
true.
like gods and goddesses. Some of us were like goddesses. Alas, look at us now.
Well, we're not doing too badly. We still have our drink. We're still at a Dublin bar. We're still enjoying the euphoria.
Yeah.
And looking for goddesses. Now, this is the manuscript of the history of the Ginger Man, and if anyone wonders why one undertook to write this, the book itself has probably influenced everything in my life from the time I wrote it and got it published. And this is a manuscript page, and the way one works on manuscripts, and say it starts with this first draft page, which one finds underneath here. And as I rewrite each page, it gets pasted on top, and the page gets longer and longer until finally, as we unravel the manuscript, we find out that some of these pages go for the entire length of a room, and then every single word that I've written in draft can be traced back through the pages by simply turning them over. So it's autobiographical as well as a history of how not to be an author in 2 or 3 easy lessons. The actual history of this, including travels and so on and so forth, becomes this vast mystery, merely, and begins to unfold as one thing